People who sleep naked, when has it backfired? Once when RAs in college knocked at my door in the middle of the night and it took me a second to get up and get dressed. They were sus of me. Other than that, been nothing but great. Even got my partner hooked on sleeping the same way. Sus of what though? 99% of the time they're suspicious of the residents hiding drugs or alcohol. My freshman year an RA knocked on the door because they had caught a couple of residents with drugs in the stairwell and were doing check-ins with all the residents. I cleaned up my all candy and junk food wrappers before opening cause I had an embarrassing amount out on my desk. I ended up getting a verbal warning cause the RA thought the rustling was me hiding stuff. I've been sleeping naked for over 40 years and so far, it hasn't caused me any problems anywhere. Yet. I locked myself out of my flat whilst sleepwalking one. My girlfriend was on holidays so I had to wait until morning, borrow a towel off a neighbor and then walk about a mile up the road to the estate agent to get a spare key. I would have lent more than a towel, geez. I would give them my nicest please never return these to me outfit when my little cousin, who is a male, pulled my blankets off to wake me up. He was not expecting his oldest female cousin to be completely nude. That was a very awkward moment. It was at that moment Timmy didn't like Legos anymore. When I was about 13 or 14, I used to sleep naked, until I started to sleepwalk a lot. Never slept naked ever again. I've always slept naked but the heater in my room was broken and it was getting too cold even with layers of blanket. I woke up that morning and knew I had the house to myself at least till late afternoon so I continued snoozing in my sister's room with the heater on. Next thing I knew, I heard voices coming up the stairs. It was my sister and her friends. I guess they decided to ditch school and thought I wasn't home. I had no other choice but to roll over and hide under the bed. They were hanging out in that room for a good 2 hours and I was under the bed completely naked the whole time. That was almost 15 years ago and she still has no idea. Casually sits under bed for 2 hours completely naked. I normally don't do this, but one summer night I had a meal from my local Mexican place that I love. Since I was busy that day, I didn't have lunch and decided to get significantly more than what I normally order to cure hangry. I also did not get an opportunity to poop that day. Since it was unusually hot that night I decided to ditch everything and sleep bare. After one very realistic dream of me on the toilet. Let's just say that I had to get a new set of bed sheets the next morning. Shit happens. Shout out. I don't know if I would call it backfired, but, when the suicidal girl that's staying the night at your brother's house because they're watching this girl for suicide reasons, wakes you up in the middle of the night and is sitting right on top of you telling you that you have to talk her down right then and there or she's going to kill herself in front of you. Yeah, you would probably just rather be clothed for that encounter. Fear boner? It was an anticiparection. I can't sleep with clothes on due to sensitive skin. Backfire is nocturnal emission due me not having sex at all. How are your sheets different from clothes? Do you wear clothes with the seams on the outside? A few years ago, I was working a night shift and had just returned home at 7 AM. I was so tired that I didn't close the front door properly. After I activated the house alarm, I went to my room and undressed myself and went to bed. I wake up to the alarm blaring and I look around my room as I hear yelling. I see there are 2 female cops in the house with their guns out and one of them was pointing it at me. I'm half asleep and not really understanding what was going on. The officer asked if I lived here, to which I said yes. Then she ordered me to show her my ID. My ID, which was in my wallet, was on my dresser. I pointed her to where my wallet was. She ordered me to show it to her, and I said I couldn't get up because I was naked under my blanket. So, while still pointing her gun at me, she opened up my wallet. After that, the cops left and, after securing the front door properly, I went back to sleep. My favorite part is that 2 trained professionals found it conceivable, and even probable, that someone broke in to take a morning nap like fucking Goldilocks. It's happened before. Honestly, a good way to hide if you burgled and tripped the alarm. been sleeping in the raw since I was a kid and would fidget out of my PJs. I think it used to bug my mother, but she finally gave up. Every girlfriend would start out the relationship by joining me, but over time would end up with the conventional night clothes. Hasn't backfired on me yet. I am your nemesis. I sleep with a t-shirt, shorts and socks on. Fight to the death. There was one morning in high school when my dad decided to wake me up for school by ripping the covers off me in bed. That was the last time that happened. We all know rude awakenings are the cause behind nude sleeping. What are you doing, Daddy? Not yet. You're threading on some mighty thin ice there. I started somewhere in high school because of night sweats. In college I moved into a non-campus apartment alone, and the very next morning I woke up to 3 grown mid-50s dudes with their faces in my window. My bed was directly below the window. University housing gave some BS excuse about my window needing maintenance. Just my window specifically. None of the others in the entire complex. The window wasn't even designed to open. I think they were being pigs, but I was 1,000 miles away from anyone who cared about me, and just let it go. Did you not have any blinds or blankets? Why wouldn't they provide you with blinds, if so? I used to sleep naked. Now I own a cat. Those two overlapped for only a week. Yeah, morning wood and cats don't mix. One time they attack it and you'll sleep with shorts on after that. Penis equals scratching post for cats. This has happened to me before, but both cats decided that that would be a good wake-up call. When in uni, my room was right in front of the university. So when looking out my windows you would look straight into classrooms. So one day the inevitable happened. I had forgotten to close the curtains at night. You couldn't see me while I was in bed due to the head of the bed obstructing the window. However, getting out of the bed would expose my entire naked body to the world. So any bored student whose sight was wandering off outside the classroom window could get a nice viewing of my naked body. The way I fixed it was by simply rolling up in my bedsheets and sort of hop to my curtains in my bedsheet roll. I am male BTW, so I didn't have to cover up breasts. Greater than I am male BTW, so I didn't have to cover up breasts, just let those moves swing free. Take my upvote and leave. My crush came over to study with me and I walked out butt naked. She just looked away. We've been dating for 4 years now. Nah, she peeked and liked what she saw. Never. Chased a burglar down the stairs, through the kitchen and out my front door without wearing a shred of clothing and no weapon in hand. The power of nakedness. What were you yelling out of curiosity, and did they have a weapon themselves? Edit. Wow, 100 plus likes. This was the first time that's ever happened to me. Thanks yawn. Woke up and saw a person prowling around in my hallway, launched myself out of bed and into a dead sprint, screaming get the fuck out or die. I was blinded by fear and rage. I don't recall seeing a weapon, but had they had one, I was defenseless and would have been in a really bad spot had they chosen to use it. The burglar didn't say anything. I'm assuming they just panicked and their first instinct was to run. Guess they didn't want to fight a naked guy. When I backfired. Oh god Lamau. I was in middle school and had been sleeping naked under the covers for years while my parents would come in and wake me up. Somehow, my body always managed to stay the blanket by the time morning rolled around, so I was never worried about someone coming in the morning only to see my bare self exposed. Well, one Saturday, I was sleeping in and there was some event that my parents wanted to go to along with my older sister and me. They asked her to go in and wake me so that I could get ready. My several years long streak of successfully being hidden by the blanket ended that day as my bare ass was exposed to the door of my bedroom. I woke up to the sound of my sister screaming at the top of her lungs shouting, "You woo, why do you sleep naked?" I just remember thinking, I can't believe that after all that time of people coming into my room and waking me up with me being under the blanket, the one time I wasn't full under was the one time my sister came in. That's a dick move, yo. Scream like that and make it awkward. Could've just pulled the blanket over you. Then wallay you up. Not me, but I was spending the night at my friend's house in a suburban neighborhood. In the middle of the night his mom had let their toy fox terrier out to go pee and it got snatched by a coyote. She screamed and woke us all up. A wolf got noodle. Within 10 seconds his dad was sprinting out of the house completely butt-ass naked with a Glock in his hand and went running down the street. Came back about 15 minutes later with the dog and obviously still completely naked. Edit, it's come to my attention that this isn't exactly a backfire, but I think anything that causes you to run around your neighborhood naked should qualify. Imagine if he came back clothed in coyote fur. When I was younger, a teenager, a sibling came in and ripped off my blankets. The teenager and your sibling sound very rude. I was at a house fire once during the night and the homeowner slept naked. When we arrived he was running around his front yard naked with a garden hose. Thankfully he was not injured and we were able to salvage most of his belongings, and the one thing he said is that he learned to now sleep with shorts on. My dad always sleeps in the nude. One day the neighbor's house across the street caught fire after the gas-powered water heater exploded. He could hear the homeowner screaming for help all the way from inside our house, so, still naked, he ran into the burning house and carried her out. Firefighters said if he had been wearing clothes the heat from inside the burning building would have ignited them and he would possibly have burned to death. So instead of backfiring, sleeping naked actually saved your father's life. I was young, like 12, and had just hit puberty. I had slept naked my whole life and it didn't change. One day, super hot babysitter that I didn't know was gonna work, tries waking me up, which was hard because I was a really heavy sleeper. I woke up right as she pulled the covers off me to behold my 12-year-old rock-hard morning woodcock. This sounds like a great start to a porno, granted all of the actors 18 and the one who plays you looks 12. It has never backfired, but typing this out seems like an invitation for mishaps. I had a closet-sized single dorm room and people would always pull the fire alarm in the middle of the night and we'd all have to go outside. One time I was so drowsy I just walked out instinctively and halfway down the hall I raced back. Thankfully this was an old building so I didn't get locked out of the room. Either I'll burn or I'll make it out alive, but I'm going to wear pants. My buddy's apartment burned down a few years ago. It was already engulfed by the time he woke up. His arms, upper back, and ears got pretty fucked up running out of it in his t-shirt. Still pretty purple to this day. He took a few seconds to put on his work pants and boots. Probably saved his life, definitely saved his junk. Basic training. Getting called out of bed because someone fell asleep on guard duty. My private was standing at attention. At ease. I got super drunk in a hotel room and passed out naked. Woke up confused about my surroundings for some reason and left the room, walked down a hall naked for some reason. My wife guided me back to bed. I guess it didn't backfire since nobody saw me that I know of, but that hotel has actually since burned down in a suspicious fire. Fortunately nothing yet for me personally, although TBH I don't sleep naked too often, especially this time of year. A university flatmate had a boyfriend with a supposedly fairly bent dick. She claimed it was the result of a nighttime falling out of bed, landing penis first with an erection. Crunch. You could have just not typed that out. I was at a hotel and the fire alarm went off. I had to very quickly find clothes/get dressed. It was a legit small fire too. I always sleep with pants on at hotels. I don't want to find out the hard way that they don't wash the sheets well enough. I was in a hotel once just laying on the bed trying to go to sleep and the people above me were straight up doing it in the bed and all you could hear is the creaking. Finally after like 5 minutes I just heard a groan and it all stopped.